back to my channel. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series 91 Leader Class, The Fallen. Before we take a look at them, let's take a look at the packaging. So of course up front here we do have a nice, really cool artwork shot of The Fallen with some really cool ruins and a pyramid in the background. We have the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen logo. We have the Studio Series and 91. We have the Fallen text with a nice Decepticon symbol and Transformers on the side. On the side here, of course, another nice, really cool, menacing artwork of the Fallen looking very cool. On the back there are several product shots, one of the robot and jet mode. Of course, it transforms in 17 steps. A really nice picture showing how you can remove the face from the Fallen and recreate that really cool battle scene at the end of the second film. Also included is a really cool backdrop, which I'll show later in the review. And on the set here, of course, there's another really nice close-up of the Fallen's face with 91 Studio Series, and at the very bottom there is Leader Class in several different languages. And before we get into the review, I do want to let you know this is actually my 600 subscribers special, so I will be shouting out 2 fellow subscribers of mine completely random at the very end of this review. So if you know my layout, at the very end I typically will do my final thoughts of the figure, really just kind of an overview of the entire figure and what my thoughts on the robot and alt mode, and that's right around where I'll shout out my 2 subscribers, fellow subscribers of mine. So if you want to shout out and you're subscribed to me, maybe you'll be able to get one. So of course watch the full review until the end, and that's pretty much it for the intro. So let's now get into the review. Have the Fallen in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very top with that head sculpt. Some really nice metallic blue for this whole main section, with some more blue for the beard, with some gunmetal gray for the face, and some really nice red for the eyes, and some silver for this top crest section, done with some nice black for those really cool spikes sticking out. If you do go down to the shoulders, some really nice metallic blue for these huge spikes, and some really nice orange highlights with some black, looking very cool and really well sculpted. If we do go to the arms, some really nice cool spikes sticking out to the back of the arm, with some nice gray for the hand with tons of fingers sticking out, which I'll go to the front of the hand in just a sec. I do want to let you know, I actually recently watched the second Transformers movie again, and I actually noticed there's more really red highlights on the CGI design than this actual toy. I realized that when I first got this. I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. There's more orange on the toy than red in the movie. I'm not really sure why. Maybe they just want to put their own spin on it. It doesn't really bother me that much. Would I have preferred red just to be more accurate? Yes, but really the orange does not bother me at all. Let me know what you prefer or think in the comments section down below. Of course, going to the inside of the hand again, tons of fingers, very alien and creepy like. Love that. Getting down to the whole stomach and waist section, very creepy and scrawny and bony, looking very cool. And of course, all the details repeated on this side of the arm. Getting down to the legs, lots of spikes done in black and gray with quite a bit of orange highlights here and there. And of course the very classic trait is the very weird feet and the very weirdly positioned legs that kind of go out and almost like a chicken, looking very, very weird. And again, the feet, super creepy and cool with the silver and a lot of black for the toes. And if you want to, I've actually done this in some really cool poses. You can actually angle the toes down and have him standing just a little bit taller to add some extra height, and you could have him crushing Optimus Prime or Jetfire. I actually think when he comes into the desert battle in the second movie, he actually crushes a human with his huge feet. So you could do something like that, which is a pretty cool feature. And if we do flip to the back, there is actually quite a bit of detail in the back of him. Really the top half, the bottom part of the legs, pretty plain, just really done in black, but really nice spinal section here done at gray. And of course we have these entire little skeletal pieces attaching to the arms, which I'll cover a little bit more in just a sec. But detail wise, lots of really nice wiring done in gray with some nice orange highlights which do attach to the arms, which you can actually remove these completely. I would really suggest to keep them on because they kind of fill in the huge gaps between the arms and the chest, because as I said before, the chest and the waist is actually very, very small, and I remove these pieces so he actually looks way too scrawny and bony for my liking, so I actually kind of prefer to keep them on, but that is just my opinion. That is pretty much it for the details. Let's now get down to articulation. So starting at the head can look up and down, of course tilt side to side, and move all the way around. So of course there is a ball joint, and I will quickly, whenever I cover the accessories, I will show the whole face removing gimmick. As for the arm, I'm actually going to detach these whole skeletal sections because they slightly do limit the articulation. Typically whenever you're moving the arm, the ball joint will come detached from the arm, so I'm just going to remove myself because it's going to happen anyway, even if I don't. So you can just remove this from the arm. So how that works is there is a ball joint and there's a whole section here that will plug into, and this actually moves and coordinates with this piece. And if you're wondering the articulation for this is a ball joint here here, and there's actually a whole hinge section here that can move back and forth. And there is also a hinge here, so if you're wondering about that. So now, for the articulation of the arm with that detached and out of the way, there is a swivel here and a hinge up, but that is really due to transformation. And if you have a good grip on it, there is a really tight swivel at the bicep. There is also a double jointed elbow. The hand has a swivel, and of course the hand can collapse in, but that is really due to transformation. Unfortunately, there is no finger articulation. I really think they should have done that, because there's like 8 fingers. I think it would have been nice if they could have done a few, but unfortunately it is a completely stock hand. There is no waist rotation, but that's understandable because it is a very scrawny little waist, so I really don't know how they could include that. As for the legs, there is a swivel at the top. Of course, the leg can kick pretty much all the way up and all the way back, because again, there is not much going on with him. Also, of course, there is a swivel at the knee. You have to have a really good grip on him. There is a swivel at the knee. There is also a swivel at the ankle, and the ankle itself has a ball joint, so it can tilt forward and back. Also, the toes themselves, there is a hinge at this individual one, there is a hinge at these two, and there is a hinge at this one on the side. And that is actually pretty much it for articulation. I do apologize if you didn't have the best view, because this figure is so, oddly shaped. It's really hard to show everything at once. So I'm actually going to reattach this section so he can be complete, just like that. So you just attach that ball joint like this, which can be a bit of trouble to align. There we go. And that is pretty much it for articulation. Overall, very thoroughly impressed. Unfortunately, no waist rotation, but I'm actually really not surprised, because it's such an oddly shaped, scrawny character. I'm really not that surprised. I would have liked it, yes, but I'm not that surprised. Let's now get down to, of course, the face feature and the accessories. So let's start with the face. So, of course, if you want to, and you have the Jetfire and Optimus, you can recreate that really cool scene in the second movie when he takes off his face with his own staff. So you can just rip his face off, which I think is like the coolest thing. There's really no, I would say, assigned or certain way to do it. You kind of just put it on and just rip it off. There's really no certain set way. But there is the really cool skeletal face. Hopefully you can see all the details. That looks super kind of gross and creepy at the same time. And you can actually open his mouth so he can be screaming, which is a super cool feature. So of course there's some really nice gold highlights at the mouth, the upper jaw and lower jaw. There's some really cool wires on the top of his head, and there's some more red for the eyes and some silver and black for the face. Overall, super cool, super cool. And to reattach it, you do have to close the mouth, and there is this whole top orange section that kind of sits in this section right here. So you kind of just put it in there like that, and there we go. I wouldn't say it's the most secure connection. No, it's never fallen off, but I do tell whenever I move the head around, it does seem a little bit loose for my liking. Now for the accessory, of course, it's the staff. So you can actually have it in 2 pieces or 1. I'm going to show you the 2 pieces first. You just kind of slide them into these sections here like that. So you can sort of dual wield some swords, which personally me, I don't think I'm ever going to do this besides, of course, the review itself. Maybe I'll pose it around every once in a while, but typically I will have him with his full staff. So you can have him dual wielding his swords, which is super cool. I do apologize, it kind of cuts off because the staff itself is so huge and long. I'll try and angle his hands down so you can see the full thing, but I think that's pretty cool. And then of course you can take him out and fully attach it into his hand. I really do think this should have come with the Matrix, because that's one of the main plot points of the movie. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, I think most people who watch this channel have seen the second Transformers movie. He needs the Matrix to, of course, activate the Sun Harvester, a main plot point of the movie, so I really think this should have been included. My only guess as to why they didn't is because it would be a very small piece. I don't think they wanted them to lose it, but if they had done just a small little rubber piece, the same material they used to make the blaster pieces, I think that would have been a really cool addition to this figure. But that is pretty much it for that. So let me just take both halves out of his hands, and you're really going to want to attach it or connect them in his hand. So not entirely sure the best way to show it, but of course there is 2 ports here and there is 2 tabs here, so you're really just going to want to put it halfway through his hands like this, and then you can attach both halves like this. Just attach both halves. Apologies if you couldn't see it the best, but there is his full staff. We'll try and put him back as best I can, because it is so huge, it's so tall. In my personal opinion, I think it could have been shorter. That's just my opinion. I know they wanted to make it super long so it could be touching the ground, sort of propping him up and have it super long, but I think it could have been a little bit shorter. But that is a really cool pose there. I like that. That looks absolutely awesome. And that is pretty much it for the accessories and features, details, and articulation. Let's now get down to some comparisons. Starting off with comparisons, here we have the Transformers Studio Series Leader Class The Fallen compared next to the original version of this character, the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, The Fallen. Of course, the original version that came out when the Transformers 2 movie first came out, and they do look very, very cool next to each other. So, of course, similarity-wise, actually, of course, design-wise, they look pretty similar. The whole creepy hand design with multiple fingers and the whole sprayed out feet design actually looks pretty cool next to each other, and the very interesting feet design looks pretty cool. And without a doubt, the Studio Series version is so much better. Of course, there is some things I actually do quite like about the original. I actually really do like the red color. That actually looks super cool. I think it would really work with the dark gray and black on the Studio Series 1. And of course, as you can see, the whole metallic blue is completely absent on the original, which I actually really do like the metallic blue. I think some people might not like it. It is a bit of an odd, thing to put on the character, because I don't think that was really present in the Transformers 2 movie. But I think it works. And of course, lots of new added features with the new version. The old one didn't even come with the staff, which I think is a bit silly because it was like his main weapon, and it actually didn't even come with the removing face gimmick, which honestly, to be honest, I really could have gone without either way. Even on the new version, I really wouldn't have made a difference to me. But yes, definitely without a doubt, I like this one so much more. Another reason why I like the modern day version so much more, if you have this version of the Fallen, you know I'm about to talk about the spring-loaded feet feature. So I'm not going to pick it up because it's such a pain to actually place back down, but if you ever lift up the character, the feet would actually automatically collapse, and whenever you place it down, you have to, of course, balance it, and the feet will sort of move out. In concept, I think it's pretty cool, but if you ever want to put him in a dynamic pose, it is the worst thing to ever do. Even putting it in this generic neutral pose took about 8 minutes for me to do. It was such a pain. I actually do know there is another version of this mold from the original. They actually made a sort of blue, different version of it, and I never really was very interested in that, but a very cool comparison, and I will definitely be keeping this one, because I actually think it looks pretty cool next to the modern day version. Let's now get down to some other comparisons. I'm just going to put that one off to the side for now. And let's now take out another Studio Series Leader Class. So I actually got both these at the same time. It was sort of a case of two, so I thought might as well get the Fallen and Sledge. And I was actually kind of wishy-washy about keeping Sledge. I was thinking I would probably just keep Studio Series The Fallen and just sell this one off. I'm actually really glad I kept it. Of course, review coming soon for Sledge, and he is actually a very, very cool character. I've decided to actually collect the rest of the Dinobots, so I'm going to try and get Slug and Grimlock. Hopefully Grimlock. That one's super expensive right now, but they do look very cool next to each other, and actually very, very big. The size of the leaders in this Studio Series line have surprised me of how big they are, because before these two, I actually never had a bigger class than Core Class. I had only gotten Core Class Wheelie and Ratchet, and that was it. So I was so surprised of how big these characters are. So I'm actually going to bring out a Leader Class Legacy figure to show you how drastically changed the size of leader classes between Legacy and Studio Series, but they do look very cool next to each other. And of course, again, a review coming soon for Sludge. But for a final comparison, here he is with Leader Class G2 Laser Optimus Prime. As you can see, size-wise, very, very different. Of course, some people could think that the G2 Laser Optimus Prime is more worth it because it does come with more accessories, and it does come with that whole Battle Station trailer, and I would say it's a more of a complex transformation. I would say the transformation for the Fallen is pretty simplistic and not that complicated, and the alt mode is really just okay. So from a certain point of view, people could say this one is more worth it, but of course size-wise, you can see a huge change. To me, honestly, either way, I would say they're both worth getting and both worth the price of a Leader Class, $55. I think it's a pretty fair price for either. But they do look very cool mixed together, and it's actually really interesting how just two separate lines, the size can change so drastically. They're the same price, but a huge change in size. It's actually pretty cool. But just taking them off to the side, that is pretty much it for comparisons. So let's now get down to transformation into the Cybertronian Jet. Now get down to transformation into the Cybertronian Jet mode. So what you're going to do is collapse both these fin sections here. You can then hinge the shoulders up, and then what you're going to do is get this whole chest piece, hinge this up and over, and that will just cover the head. Unfortunately, my copy, it never really wants to stay down. Hopefully, your guys' copy will be a little bit better than mine. And then we can now go down to the arms. You can then hinge the arm fully back, and then make sure the hand is slightly angled, so there's some space for it to tab in. You can slightly sort of angle it up like that. So do the same thing on the other side. You can then tab the arm in to the shoulder like that. And then we have pretty much the entire back half of the jets complete. We can now go down to the legs, swivel these in like that. You're going to get the whole shoulder, not the shoulder, the knee joints, swivel this out. Get the ankle, swivel that out as well. Do the same thing on the other side, so get the knee, swivel that out. Get the ankle, swivel that joint out as well. You can then collapse the feet or the toes like that to form like the engines, if you want to say that. And there we go. And then what you're going to do is get this entire section. This is just going to swivel back like that. There we go. Get that in place. And then what you're going to want to do is there is a tab on the leg and there is a slot on the arm. So just tab that into place like that, which can be a bit difficult to do. There we go, got one side, and just gotta align it. Sometimes if you use too much force, it might move the arm. There we go. And make sure the legs are fully straightened out. There we go. And now what you're going to do is get the accessories and those little skeletal pieces, and you're going to tab these into the legs. So there is a tab on the foot, and there is a ball joint, and that's going to attach into the arm. So make sure this whole piece there is angled correctly. So honestly, you could do either. You can tab the ball joint in first. You can do the tab on the foot first. Really doesn't matter. And you just got to align that tab into place. Got one side. And do the same thing on the other side. Let me just angle the camera down. So make sure this is up. I'm going to do the ball joint first. And again, it really doesn't matter. You could do the tab first if you wanted to. And straighten that out. And there we have the jets. As for the accessories, there is a ball joint, or not a ball joint, a port on the legs, and there is a peg on the accessory. And you're just going to plug that into place like that. There's one of them. And of course, if you wanted to, you could leave them off. Really, it's just up to your own personal preference. And then, of course, you can do the other side. Like that. There we go. Tab this back into place. Like that. And there we have the Fallen in his Cybertronian jet mode. Let's take a look at the Fallen in his really cool looking Cybertronian jet mode. Let's take a look at the details. So of course over here we have some really nice transparent orange plastic for the windscreen or the cockpit, with this really cool section here, which you could probably imagine as like a huge mega blaster or something like that, which is pretty cool. We have some really nice nice metallic blue on that top section with some really cool orange highlights. And of course we do have the hands, which honestly don't look too bad. From certain views you probably couldn't even tell what they are. We have some really nice spikes in this back section with some nice gunmetal gray with the entire sword pieces. Personally, to me, not the greatest storage, which it has always been hard to store a sword or staff in pretty much any mode. That's pretty much, I would say, the main reason why they had it split in half. I don't think the main reason why they had the staff split in half is so you could dual wield. I think it was really for storage purposes. Personally, in my opinion, I really would have rather had the staff not split in half and you just store it on the side, because I would have rather it be a cell piece, but that is just my opinion. it just looks okay. Probably my main complaint is these whole sections just sticking in the back. The spike sections in the front do look pretty cool though. And of course we have quite a bit of circuitry detailing. Of course these are the removable little skeletal pieces from the remote mode that can attach there. Unfortunately on my copy, they do tend to stay tabbed in at the ball joint, but at the section at the foot, it does tend to detach every once in a while, so that is unfortunate. So that's really why I'm kind of delicately handling it. And of course we have these really cool sections back here. Of course these are the feet, so you can imagine them to be like rocket boosters because you collapsed all the toes. And if you do look where the head used to be, or the head is, they actually put some really cool orange design or detail there, so you could probably say that's like another engine there, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, really no area is Blast of Peace compatible, but that doesn't bother me that much. Also, what's really nice is the flight stand port is actually right underneath this section, so you can actually put them in some really cool poses. I'll show you it if I can, but it's actually right there, so you can actually put them in some pretty cool flight stand poses. Overall, design-wise, I think it looks pretty cool. I wouldn't say it's the best jet mode. It's just okay. I know a lot of people really wanted him to transform into the Sun Harvester. I think the reason why they didn't do that is because, of course, I think typically Hasbro will go for the younger audience, of course. Of all ages, they can collect the Transformers, but I think they were probably thinking of the younger audience because they're wondering, okay, what would a kid do with a Sun Harvester? Because, you know, the movie is 13 and up, and, you know, some young kids have not even seen the movie yet, so they're wondering, what am I supposed to do with this, you know, pyramid tower thing? They have no idea what to do with it. Of course, adult collectors, they might think it's nostalgic, but younger collectors, they might not know what that is or what to do with it. So I'm pretty sure that's probably why they did a jet mode. I would be all for it. Maybe in a few years they could try and do a Sun Harvester, but yeah, I honestly could go either way, because I bought this figure definitely not for the alt mode. I bought it for the robot mode. I think that's probably what most people are going to do as well. But overall, it's just an okay looking Cybertronian jet mode. Let's now get down to one quick comparison for the alt mode. Here it is with the original, the Revenge of the Fallen figure. As you can see, of course, layout-wise, they actually are quite similar. The feet, you know, collapse in the back and become like the engines or the boosters, and of course the hands or arms are in the same position, and they both have that same sort of cockpit section. Personally, in my opinion, I do like the Stu Series version more, and as you can see, size-wise, this one is so much bigger than the original. But let me know what you think. Which one do you like more in the comment section down below? And that is pretty much it for the alt modes. Let's now get down to the final thoughts, and of course the 2 random subscriber shoutouts. Get down to the final thoughts, and of course the 2 random subscriber shoutouts. So let's start with the shoutouts. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you might have missed the intro of the video, whenever I hit a milestone subscriber count, so of course, for example, 600, which is what I just hit recently, I will shout out 2 random subscribers of mine, completely random, and I'll just put them in the video. And if you, of course, by chance get shout out and you don't watch this video, I'm actually going to make a community post. Typically, I will make a community post of whatever review I did recently. Of course, I'll just say this review is now up, and what I'll do is, whenever I make the community post for the Fallen, I'll put in the area of that community post the 2 people I shouted out. So let's start off with the first one. So first off, our first shout out is Splatter Videos. So shout out to Splatter Videos for subscribing. And again, I'll put that in the community post, their YouTube name, if you may have missed it in this video. And the second one is Skids123. So shout out to Skids123 and Splatter Videos. So with that out of the way, let's now get down to the final thoughts for Transformers Studio Series 91 Leader Class The Fallen. Starting in the alt mode, I think it's just okay. It's not really my favorite, of course. I think most people are just going to buy this for the robot mode. That's what I did. I think it's just okay. It looks pretty cool, very menacing, very Cybertronian and alien-like. My complaints, I don't really like the storage for the accessories, which I do cut them a little bit of slack, because storing swords or staffs in like any version of any vehicle is always hard. A truck, car, plane, or anything, a Cybertronian spaceship, it's always hard to actually make it look good, because they're, you know, long, they're very big, and it's always hard to do and actually work. I think it's just okay. The 2 sections that stick out the back, not my favorites, but I actually really do like all the gunmetal gray and the spikes and all the really cool orange highlights, and the metallic blue actually looks super cool, and the really nice orange plastic for the cockpit actually looks super, super nice. And I think a lot of people are really wanting him to transform into the Sun Harvester. I think the reason why they didn't do that is because Of course, yes, people of all ages can collect Transformers, yes, but I think they were mostly thinking of the younger audience, because, the Transformers 2 movie is PG-13, so, the younger audience might have not seen the movie yet, so if he had transformed into the Sun Harvester, they might be like, what is this? What am I supposed to do with this? I can't play with this, So I think a ship definitely more playable, more fun than a whole, pyramid Sun Harvester weapon, which you really can't do much with. That would really be more for display, I would say, for adult collectors. Would I have liked to see a Sun Harvester? Absolutely, yes. I think that'd be pretty cool. But I think they were just thinking of more of the more playable option of the two between a jet and a Sun Harvester. I would really like to see one of the Fallen someday transform into a Sun Harvester. I think that'd be pretty cool. Hopefully we'll maybe get that soon. And overall, the jet mode is just okay. Not my favorite. Let's now get down to, of course, the transformation. Overall, I would say not that hard. I wouldn't say it's fun. Is it a fun transformation? No, because there's a lot of weird angles. Of course, you have to attach these pieces there, which can be a bit of a pain, because unfortunately on my copy, they will stay attached into the arms where the ball joint is, but unfortunately on the feet, they typically will unfortunately come untabbed, so that is a bit unfortunate. But everything else, pretty secure, pretty tight connections. And for the transformation, I'd say you probably need it about 1 or 2 times with the instructions, and then you'll probably get it down. I wouldn't say it's a complex transformation, it's just not that fun. It's just a little bit messy and kind of cluttery and clunky. Getting down to, of course, the robot mode, I am actually very thoroughly impressed. The size of the Looter class is actually very big. When I first opened it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so huge. Because these are actually this is actually one of my first leader classes from the Studio Series line. I actually don't have that many figures. I have the 2 core classes, Ratchet and Wheelie, and then I have Sludge and, of course, the Fallen. And that is it from the Studio Series line. I'm actually really impressed with your robot mode. The staff in his hand looks super cool. Of course, you can have him dual wield the swords. Not my favorite. I honestly really just like the solid staff of both pieces connected. And of course, he has this head removing gimmick or face removing gimmick, which I think looks super cool when you take it off. The whole skeleton or skull of the face looks super cool and creepy and scary with the big red eyes. And you can have him opening his mouth and like screaming or something, which is super cool. And we do have the whole kind of skeleton pieces, which are those pieces right there, which do attach to his arms and his chest or his back, which that is a pretty secure connection, of course. It does slightly limit the movement and articulation of the arms, so if you ever want to put it in a crazy pose, you can easily remove those pieces, take them off if you don't want them on, which is a really nice option. I'm really glad those aren't permanent pieces that you cannot remove. But as just on the shelf, I will leave those pieces there, which I would suggest too as well, because they actually kind of do fill in the space, because he's a very scrawny, kind of skinny character, so with those pieces off, it does look a little bit odd between the chest and the arms. It looks a little bit empty, in my opinion, so that's probably why they included those pieces. And it is accurate to the movie. I would say one minor complaint of the robot mode is all the orange highlights. They do look good, but they are, I wouldn't say, accurate to the movie. I actually recently watched the second Transformers movie again, and I distinctly remember most of the highlights and areas that glow were really done in red. Do I know why they purposely chose the orange? No, I don't. Maybe they were just trying to put their own twist on it or spin on it. It doesn't bother me. I really would have preferred orange, or I really would have preferred red. Maybe they chose to do the orange because his eyes are done in red. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to kind of brighten the figure up a little bit, because everything else is dark gray and black. That could be a reason why they wanted to do orange. But overall, a very, very good figure. I highly recommend to get it. And I would note, if you're a bit kind of wishy-washy on this figure, if you're unsure if you want it or not, I would suggest to get it, because if you change your mind later, like, oh yeah, I want this now, it could be absolutely possible. I think this is going to be kind of like Grimlock and Sentinel Prime from Stu Series and Ironhide. It's going to be super expensive to get this on the aftermarket. If it's sold out on Hasbro Pulse and Amazon and other stores, it's going to be impossible to get for a good retail price. So highly suggest to get this like ASAP. Of course, don't pay overpriced, $5 max, because it can get very, very expensive for a character like this, because it's been so long since they've made the Fallen, and I think a lot of people really, really want this. So highly suggest to, if you have an option, get it, because it's going to be so impossible to get later. Hope you enjoyed this review. Of course, this is my 600 subscriber special, so thank you for all the support recently. It's crazy. I'm at 600 subscribers. It's awesome. Thank you so much. Of course, the Sludge review coming soon. I actually do have 2 Shatterglass coming soon, and also the PulseCon Heroes Born 2-pack coming soon. So make sure you stay tuned for those reviews. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next.